All right. So tonight's tonight's chapter, tonight's koan, number 16, case 16 from the Mumonkan, goes like this. Unman said, "Look, this world is vast and wide. Why do you put on your priest's robe at the sound of the bell?" The world is vast and wide, right? So in a monastery, right, the sound of the bell is when you means you got to get dressed, right? Get ready to sit, put on your robes. You know, you guys have seen me in like the big full tilt outfit, right? Why do you put on your robes when the bell rings? Another way to look at that might be like, why do you meditate when I ring the bell? Or why do you do anything? The world is vast and wide, right? Why not watch Netflix? Why come here tonight? Right? You can sit home and, eat Cheetos and watch Netflix. Why do you wake up and go to work at the sound of the alarm? Why do you get up and help the baby when it cries in the night? It's a good koan, right? Because what Unman is asking is not, why, well, he's asking why do you put on your robes, but he's also asking why do you do anything? And I would think, there's couple of reasons, right? You either do things because that's who I am and that's what I do, or you do them to be of benefit. Right? Anything we do, we can do from the perspective of me, or we can do from the perspective of being of benefit to all beings. And either way, we might do it, and we might even do the same thing, right? Like you can run across people who are quite helpful, but they're being helpful because they're like, look at me, I'm the helper. But then other times, why do you put on your priest's robes? One of the interesting things is you can't get priest's robes without taking a set of vows. Right? So there's a way of saying, like, Unman is asking, why do you have vows? Or why do you act on your vows? And I think this notion of working under a vow is worth kind of considering. There's a monastery in Oregon called Great Vow Monastery. And so, what is the notion of a vow, right? If we get married, or if we take Jukai, which is where you agree to live under your life by the Buddhist precepts, or you take monastic vows or priest vows. There's different vows. Usually you're agreeing to do some set of things. And part of how I think of it is like, this is the stuff I agree to do even when I'm at my worst, right? This is what I agree to do when I don't feel like it. This is who I agree to be when it's hard, which is kind of why we need vows, right? Like, I don't need vows around chocolate cake. Like, if you give me chocolate cake, I'm gonna go eat it, right? It's sweet chocolate cake, right? I don't have, but like, what makes me come to the Zen Center when I'm tired, right? What makes me put up with my wife when she's behaving in a way that she's not at her best and it's challenging? Because, how I conceptualize marriage is I agree to not abandon you when it's hard, right? I agree to be with you when you're at your worst. Now, I always put the caveat, because I'm a therapist, right, that like, obviously if there's abuse and dangerous things happening, that's a different category of thing, right? But even people who are not, of great harm to each other are hard to humans find it hard to deal with each other sometimes. So like, my Zumi Roshi, who's the Zen teacher who founded the White Plum Sangha, in which I'm a member, he used to say that people living in community are like rocks in a river. They bang into each other until all the rough edges are worn off. And I kind of think about vows like that, right? Like what vows means is not about me anymore, right? Why do you put on your robe at the sound of the bell? Because it's not about me anymore. I just put it on, right? It's like the bell just rings, right? And you just put it on. And then go do that thing, right? Just put your shoes on, go do the thing. So that's all interesting, but like, how does that benefit us, right? When we just put our robe on at the sound of the bell, then an aliveness can embody the thing that we're doing. Because so often, we wake up and we can wake up with a sense of gotta go do that again? I mean, look around, how many people are out there today? How many people will wake up in the morning tomorrow and go, right? Why do you wake up and go to work at the sound of the alarm? Oh, because I gotta make money. Need my paycheck. I have to work, And there's nothing wrong with that. I need a paycheck too. That's why I go to work. But there's this heaviness that we want things to be other than they are, right? If I win the lottery, then I won't, as though suffering will stop happening if I win the lottery, right? So we can inhabit any task, right? Why do you clean the dishes when the dinner is over? We can just wash the dishes. We can just wake up and go to work. We can just go change the diaper of the child in the middle of the night when it cries. We can just take the dog for a walk when it's whining to go outside at 2 o'clock in the morning, right? We can just do that which our life asks of us. And that can be our vow, right? That when life knocks, I'll open the door. And if we turn the reason we sit is part of what we're doing is we're learning to work with our attention, right? We return our attention to our breath. We return our attention to the present moment. We return our attention to the koan. Why? Well, because when the dog whines in the night, there's two versions of that. One version is that I turn my attention to the dog and I do the thing that needs to be done. Another version of that is, effing, God, stupid, had it. Every night you do this. And then what flows into that moment, right? What flows into that moment is resentment, irritation, negativity. Our body feels that. The beings around us feel that. And all of it is unnecessary. All of it creates suffering that doesn't need to be there. We have two kinds of suffering. We have optional suffering and we have non-optional suffering. Non-optional suffering is, you go to the doctor and the doctor says, well, I'm so sorry you have cancer, right? And you didn't see it coming and you didn't smoke or do anything. It just happened, right? It's not optional. It just happened. You didn't create that suffering. You have a human body and it got sick. But there's also optional suffering, which is where we create our own problems. And a lot of how we create suffering for ourselves and others is because when the moment arises and the demands of the moment arise, instead of just flowing into that place, right, and saying, now I'm doing this, or now I'm a being doing this, right? We're like, now I have to do that again? As though diapers and dishes and day jobs were something that humans didn't have to do with 1,000 years ago. Do you not think that people woke up on the farm and were like, I gotta go milk these cows again? Or that people in ancient China weren't frustrated because they didn't want to go out to the rice field that day, or, that maybe they didn't want to go march in the army, or, there's humans have been doing thousands of things for thousands of years. And one of the things that Zen offers is whatever that thing is, right? When the bell rings, put your robe on. Just put your robe on. And then go. And see how it is. Right? Don't aim in either direction, right? Because the other version that I sometimes find kind of maddening is when people are like, good morning. It's like a, kind of a morning show DJ approach to life, right? Where it's like, good morning, how's it going, everybody? It's a great day here. Living the dream. Right, you ever heard that? How's it going, Bob? Living the dream, bro. Right? You're not living the dream. You're miserable and hiding it. None of this is to say that when we're with what is, right? When the bell of life rings and we go to put on our robe, if we find that the robe doesn't fit, if we find that, the shoes of the role we're in are too small and we need to change roles, we can still respond to our lives with full freedom, creating new opportunities, creating new alliances, creating new communities, doing different things, seeking new training, going, all the things. We can do all the things, right? Like we meet life right where it is. So if where it is like I wake up in the morning and I'm like, I don't like going to this tech job. Okay, well, then do the things a person does to get a different one, right? So it's not a path of inauthenticity, right? But there is no path where like the path is not that we're going to dial in all the knobs until we don't suffer anymore, right? The middle way isn't like splitting the difference between two other things, right? It's a completely different path. Zen is called the middle way. The middle way is a whole different way. And it's the way of just directly working with what's right in front of you without attachment. And not leaving anything out. So the feelings that we have, we acknowledge those. And the desires that we have, we acknowledge those. And the ways in which what we do is helpful, we acknowledge that. And the way in which it's unhelpful, we acknowledge that. We meet everything, leaving nothing out. So why do we put on our robes? Why do we sit? Why do we do anything? It's interesting because he doesn't answer. Right? You have to find out. Like, why? And it's different for different things. The last thing I'll say is like, less is more. Like we're so often adjusting the knobs of every little thing, right? We want others to notice the good things that we do. We want others to not see the bad things that we do. We don't want to let anyone in on our deficiencies. We want to make sure that everyone is aware of our proficiencies. So like if I cook a meal, I can't just cook a meal, right? Check out this meal I just cooked, right? And so we can become aware when we sit that there's this like sort of like director, like a movie director or something in our brain that's like, kind of like watching our life, like setting up the scene all the time, right? Like kind of observing like, how am I dressed and how are people perceiving me? And, if I do this, are they going to like it? Like, and you're sitting at home and planning for tomorrow and like, what's the thing I'm going to do to impress everyone tomorrow? And it can be this kind of bottomless pit of seeking approval and avoiding rejection. And it's complicated and it's exhausting. And we can just stop playing. Bell rings, put on robe. That's it. Like that can just be it. It doesn't, like I can talk for 10 or 15 minutes about this koan, and you could literally just put the robe on and shut up about it. Right? Just put on the robe. Go sit. Alarm goes off, get up, get dressed, put on your shoes, go to work. Like, don't assign any additional meaning to it. Because like so much meaning and value and flows into the moment when we're present in like wildly unexpected ways. Like stuff appears, I used to have this teacher who was helping me learn a therapeutic modality called guided imagery in music, and she was proficient in a bunch of counseling disciplines, and she would say, if you don't care who gets the credit, miracles happen. I love that. If you don't worry about who gets the credit, miracles happen. That's true. So when the bell rings, put on your robe, right? When the alarm goes off, go to work. When the baby cries, help out. When the dog whines, feed it, right? Come back to the moment. Don't add extra things. Just come back to each moment. And I promise, like, enough challenge and meaning and engagement and value and all the things will flow right in. Like, nothing's going to be left out. You're not going to miss anything if you do that. Okay.